Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the ThePickleJar Podcast. Today we are with TheRentalMan Buch, and we're going to be talking all about modding for Farming Sim 19. Buch, how's it going today?
It's going pretty swell. How about yourself, dude?
I'm doing all right, just getting over a sickness is all, but, I'm getting there. It's getting better.
Yes, it definitely takes a bit. I got stuck with pneumonia, and it was...
Pneumonia is not fun. I've had it before back in the past, and it's something to reckon with. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So today we're going to talk about modding, and as someone who really knows nothing about it, I know very little, I should say. The most I've done is reskinned the government subsidy sign to say no duels, and I changed how much it paid. That was it. That's the extent of my modding career. But you have a lot of very quality mods, some really high quality and successful releases, and we're just going to kind of talk about it today. So what's one thing that most people just don't realize about modding? What is the one thing people never ever realize?
It is definitely the fact that it is a game of trial and error. No matter what you do, if you cannot sit down, think about something, even just it's also a game of retaining. You just kind of gotta, if you can't do something on one mod and think you can jump to the next and you're going to be able to do it there, and if you just it's just a game of patience, trial and error, and you got to be able to retain stuff. I don't know how well I can say it. It's a very difficult process. Some people think that they'll just jump into the game and instantly go, I'm going to do a combine. That's a big no-no. Unless you are god level tier minded, it's something that just starting off with a vehicle or putting a sticker on the side of something like I used to do. It's just simple things to kind of work your way up to be able to build something that you really love. And it does take practice, and it can take you hours upon hours to get something right, where if it doesn't go into game, it could be something as simple as you forgot to put a little dot here and there. Literally, you just got to have patience. It is a very big waiting game.
Right. Very big waiting game. I can attest to that, as I've sat with you while you mod stuff. And in fact, you're modding right now as we talk. And it's a lot of just going back and forth, checking one thing, realizing it was wrong, changing it, and then realizing that broke something else.
Oh, yes.
How long have you been modding? How long have you been at it? How long has it taken you to get to the point where you are now?
I pretty much started my modding career 2 weeks before, about 2-3 weeks before FS19 even came out. It was the very first thing I ever did was I took the little Husqvarna mower pack from FS17 and I redid the skin on it to be a John Deere. And it became it literally looked like a John Deere lawnmower. But I didn't really have any idea of how to actually mess with the mod. I pretty much just messed with the paint job that went around it. And then just kind of slowly progressed until I got to this point where now I'm making stuff that I never even knew I could.
And when was the moment that you realized that your skills have truly blossomed and that you can now make stuff that you're really, really proud of? Like, when was the moment that you realized, wow, this mod is actually really, really good?
If it were to be something that grabbed attention, probably the reskin edit of the HD modding truck dealer to turn it into Platte Valley. That grabbed a lot of attention, apparently even from the real dealer itself. Scary. But
yes, it's true.
The actual vehicle mod, I would have to say probably when I did the private edit of Stevio's truck, that white 2500 GMC. It might not have been perfect, but it involved doing like the power fold mirrors, power fold steps, the tailgates, the different attachers, different wheels, different trim packages. It was a lot of different things. And once I got that truck done, I just kind of went, that's a lot of options. Now let's see if I can do that to another vehicle. And then this truck was released, the 2020. And I started looking at my chops going, this is the one.
This is the one. Is the 2020 the mod you're most proud of so far? Or is there a different mod that you're most proud of?
There's a second one that's running a very, very close second. Well, no, there's actually 4 mods that I have that are my top favorite. 2 of them are real life ones that I've actually built besides a few components that were like rounded or like wheels. I've actually built their frames all the way up to the top to where they were because I actually own them, and that is my John Deere GS45, which I still haven't completed that version, but the new version looks almost identical to the one I have out in my garage. Then I have my little utility trailer, that Neil Manufacturing one. That one's a real one. Again, I built that entire frame. And then another one truck I'm still working on, and it's that 2011 to 2016 F350. That's another one of these kind of 2020-ish looks where it's real stock, but it's got a lot of stuff on it.
Okay. There's a mod that I would like to talk about specifically because I think you'll agree that this was a very important mod to getting you and I and everyone where we are today, and that would be the Kubota mod that you released and you sent to Grant. What do you think, looking back at that mod now, what do you think of it?
I still think it's probably one of my better, because that's the first ever real tractor that I've kind of torn apart and did some restuff to, so it's definitely a goal that I achieved, that I've done a tractor. It still had its issues, but for what the tractor was, it was technically the first of its kind to be at the level it kind of was. At least in my eyes, it was the first Kubota to be that size, that much. So I kind of feel like I got the first punch on that one. But I think it's a cool mod. I really do like it. I really want to redo some parts of it, but for right now, it's still one of my favorite top ones. It's got some proving ground.
And would you agree in saying that Kubota mod was the catalyst to starting or giving us the opportunity to start the roleplay server, right? That's kind of where it started, or was it something else? Was it something else that kind of started that process?
Honestly, I think this is actually going to come a spin back on you. It was your co-op that started it. Starting back around February or wherever it was last year, around this time when the game came out, but it wasn't until like the next patch where we had landscape. I got that like week and a half early access to it because I found a beta link to it, and I learned how to do the landscape, and then I taught you how to do it.
Well, sort of. I mean, you're still the master at it, but
no, I taught you at least how to do the whole flattening, smoothing, painting. Right, yeah. It was just the basics of it. So at least you were able to do that. And then we swapped from Westby over to Midwest Horizon. And then once again, the first thing you did is you built the co-op. Yes. And about halfway through our series there, I just kind of got the idea of, okay, I found a nice building. I'll throw some decals on it. I'll make another sign because I know how to do all that stuff. And I'll just make a dealer for like tractors instead of having to buy stuff from the store. And then that whole thing began like, I'll just run this dealer, you can run your co-op, and we'll just kind of have our own little role play thing. And then we started up the server, and Happy decided to put 60 hours on a cotton harvester.
I forgot about that. Oh, I can't believe he put 60 hours and two of them on two.
Yeah. That's kind of, I think, how it all majorly started with our actual role play. But the getting a hold of Grant, that's a whole nother story. That one was just from me trying to find out who he was, if he was in it, Facebook at all, and if I could send some of my mods to him to possibly just review or something. And the fact that he tried them out and talked to me about them, talked what he didn't like, what he did like, do some jokes around. That's pretty much how I got a hold of him. And then some crazy idea we pitched in the middle of June, going, hey, maybe we could just chat with him once to see if he'll even hop on for a special 4th of July event. And next thing you know, we're making like 2-3 videos a week with him. Right.
So it's crazy that you started your modding career 2 weeks or so before 19 even comes out, and then it ends up being the catalyst for the entire roleplay series. And I mean, it's just crazy how many people and how many lives that the simple action of you starting to make mods and making mods, it's crazy to see how many people's lives it has changed, you know?
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, because back when I used to play FS13, I didn't even know how to download a zip file. Didn't even know how to do that. Like, I only could put in those exe files that automatically install themselves. And it just kind of made me mad. But I'd say the real start again, it just kind of comes back to you, because for some reason, when we met on the Iowa server about 2 years ago,
and that's a
December,
5M server, to clarify
Yes.
with everyone. Yep.
Yes, and it was his original one that he used to have. It's not active anymore, but
Yeah.
When I met AJ first, and then about a week and a half later, after I finally started chatting with you and we found the paddy wagon and we did the whole paddy wagon pursuit and patrol, we started talking, and something clicked in between us two, where we just kind of, every once in a while, we kind of gamed with each other, but it wasn't the way it is now. But
Right.
it was still that you could see there was probably something that could have happened.
There was the spark for a good friendship, for sure.
Yes.
Like, we just got along. We had similar interests. And yeah.
It's just something on that. You never notice it the second you do that, but once you look back, you go, why didn't you see it sooner? After that, I mean, you pretty much helped us get started with even getting on the whole YouTube thing, because you already had your stuff done. I didn't even want to do any of that. I'm just the guy over here that started with playing the game. Then I was the mod guru that kept giving you stuff back.
Right.
Because I used to be a mod hunter. Now I'm a mod maker, and I don't know what it is. It's just a really long process that everything fell into place.
It just falls into place. It's weird because, if you would asked either of us a year ago where we thought that it would lead, I guarantee you this was not what we thought it would lead to at all.
Not even close.
It's amazing. And I think, another big part of it is the community, having a modding community that helped you get better at modding and helped you learn and that you can work with. Because that's one thing I don't know if many people realize. They'll be like, oh, that's Buck's truck, or that's someone's something, right? But there's usually a handful or a group of people that help behind the scenes to get that possible, right?
And definitely, no offense to Grant, but every time he calls out certain mods, especially mine, because everybody knows that a lot of people know that I don't really usually mean a lot of. Like, I don't like to take credit for a lot of things that I probably should, and I've gotten into that point now where I start doing that. But when Grant calls, this is the truck that was made by me, I did all this stuff. I just go down in the comments every once in a while and I go, and make sure you guys know that all these different parts were from these different people. I just want to make sure everybody knows that, because my type of modding is, I can make some pretty nice looking mods, but if you knew how many Frankenstein parts came off of other vehicles, that 2020 Ford probably consists of around at least 15 to 20 different mods.
Wow. That's a lot.
Just from different rims to different guards to different parts that I took out of things to pull different things off of and make them to go together to make one. It's just you name it, it's probably from some other truck. The only thing on that truck that's original is the basic body.
Yeah.
All the add-on parts are all from different vehicles.
Yeah, and I think, you wanting to make sure that recognition is passed out properly is just humility and honesty, really. And I think everyone appreciates when a modder is that way and they don't, just say, oh yes, I alone made this. No, it's a group effort, or it's sourced from parts a lot of the time from other people. So I think that's a good thing that a lot of people appreciate. You know what I mean?
And I've had my run-ins with modders before, and trust me, it's not funny. When you make a modder mad, it can get pretty intense.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Now, we're going to not name any names, and we're going to, stay as loose on the subject as possible to avoid making anyone mad. These are just the honest experiences that we have seen and had. But what is your take on the modding community in Farming Sim? Is it it's never a one or the other. There's always, people that are one, people that are the other, blah, 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 blah. But would you say overall it's a very friendly or very hostile community?
It is definitely something that it's only as hostile or as nice as you make it. You can be in the smallest mod group or the biggest mod group, or just looking up mods in any world that you want. But if you turn on that person and say it was some special access thing and only certain people could have it, but you are either, no offense to anybody, but if you're dumb enough to recreate some link to it and just post it and claim it as your own, or even if you put down the correct people who made it, the amount of time that someone would put into those certain mods, like some of these high-end vehicles that people will release, like mine was, I threw a big fit when mine got put on the Mod Hub, but I signed up for it. I put it in about 12 different Facebook groups, so it was already public, but the fact that I was going to put it on like the next morning just kind of made me mad, but that also gave me the fire to put in the more amount of stuff that I already did.
Right.
But it's just certain people have a higher tolerance level. If you put out something that you literally took 5 minutes to make and it was some trailer with like a different set of rims on there and it took you 15 minutes to swap them out, then yeah, sure, no one's going to really care if you just start spreading that. I mean, they might a little bit, but if it's something that took you 6 months to get all the different parts for, licensing and everything else, and then someone just takes it and throws it, they're going to be mad at you. No matter what you do, if you didn't mean it or if you just flat out hate people, it's different. It's friendly if you don't do anything stupid, but if you do something stupid, you're going to be hated.
Right. And there, something that I don't think the public that don't mod, just those that play the game, I don't think they realize a lot of the time that modders sink a lot of money and a lot of time into their mods, and it's very personal for them when it gets leaked or something like that.
That is true.
And a lot of the times, and from what I see, a lot of the times it's more upsetting because it's not quite ready. It's not ready to go public. There are some tweaks, some adjustments. It's just not quite there. And then a less quality version gets put out, and it kind of just makes it seem like it's not as good of a mod. And I know, like you, as you said, you had your truck, I believe which you were talking about, leaked, right? And I've seen stuff like that happen quite often, but how much time do you think you put into that 2020 Ford?
The strong silence is probably going to be your answer for that one.
And an unmeasurable? Unmeasurable
I would
amount?
probably say if it was a total amount of time, because I worked on that thing, well, it's still technically being worked on, so around whenever I can kind of get on to work on it, around a 2-month time span. If you're talking total hours, at least over 30 to probably 40, maybe even 50 hours.
Yeah. So it's a 2-month time span. I mean, yeah, you're even still working on it, like, as we speak. I think you just kind of stopped so we could continue our little conversation. But it takes a lot of time and sometimes a lot of money to get these mods made. Oh, yes. It's something that if you really, really want to go for it and you really want to create something cool, and you're going to have to put the time and effort into it. I remember when I sat back at the beginning of 19, and it was the same F350, that 2011-ish body style, where it was a nice truck. And all I wanted to do was make that to be, this is going to be the best truck in Farm Sim 19. And the second I posted that, there were already problems with it. And then I just kind of took it back into the works. I found a version that had some better stuff to it. I usually get my version of getting a quality mod done is it has to have the certain components of what the high-end mods have for their, I would say, visual quality. If this 2020 did not have what they call the UDMI on it, which gives you that wearing ability on all the different parts like chrome and dirt, that truck would not be near the visual quality it is. Right. That's where I kind of rely off of people like, say, Austin, how we kind of do our back and forth combo of getting those. He does all this Blender work and I'll do all the scripting and the actual editor work. Right.
Well, I can't. Kind of going back to what was your question about that again?
Well, originally my question was, well, shoot, now I've lost it. I think it was how much time, but I think we passed on from there. Yeah, no,
somewhere around that. But modding's a really weird. It's a very weird, but also very pretty much addicting thing that you can't get away from. I remember like 4 times that I've tried to say, all right, guys, I'm going on break. All right, my brain's fried. I just need to take a break from this stuff. 3 days later, I'll get in the game and I'll go, this truck would look really nice with a bull bar on the front. And then the process starts over.
And it starts all over again, huh?
Oh, yes.
Well, and it's like, the project that we'll name it, we'll call it the project that I gave to you, and you have Austin working with you on right now. I can attest that, these models can be expensive, and this probably wasn't even the most expensive model you'll find. But if I guessed, I can't remember what I paid for this model, but I think it was anywhere from $130 to $180. I think it was like $140 or $160, something like that. So,
because depending on if you would have gotten the truck model that was for like Grant's, his 250, that XLT.
Yeah.
If I can remember correctly, that was like a that was a $200 model, but he saved probably close to another $200 because of the fact I was able to. Fun fact: I actually built the visual of the interior for that truck, not the like texturing quality. The guy David, he's the one that did all the visual stuff to it. I just kind of put everything together, but he saved probably $200 on that interior because I was able to mash a bunch of different components from different vehicles to make the Super Duty's interior. So that truck, borderline, him probably could have been around. I don't even know what he would have paid for the entire project, maybe close to $1,000.
Wow.
To get that entire thing done.
Yeah,
but that's my guess, just for what David put into it.
That's crazy. I mean, and see, when you hear those numbers and you realize, like, oh, there's a lot more on the line for these modders when these things get leaked. Like, possibly, $1,000, not down the drain, but diminished because the mod was released earlier or something. You know what I mean? Or it just, it's crazy to think that they can cost so much. What do you think about, now this is a hot-ish topic. What is your take on private versus public mods?
I see them on my mind. I don't really care. If someone wants to have a private mod, they can have a private mod. I mean, posting pictures about it, I've done it before as well, so I'm guilty of it. Right. You want to be able to show off. I've read some things about this. You want to be able to show off the content that you're able to do, but then when you have 20 people down in the comments section going, will this be released? Will this be public? How long until this thing's out? You just start to get annoyed of it. And then what do? You're the one that posted the picture of the vehicle or whatever you're working on. So you kind of signed up for it. Public mods, great. It's that where people are willing to share the content that they've been able to work on and want to be sharing it to the public. That's kind of my motto. When I first started, or however long it was ago that I wanted to see how to change something on a vehicle, I always made it my goal to say if I ever started modding, I always wanted to be able to share it with everybody.
Right.
And it was definitely a very hard one to not just say technically screw everybody when that truck got put out early, or because it wasn't really, because I sat in my room and I just kind of thought about it and I go, it's not really worth it to just sit here and go off about it. So I let it go, and I hopefully will still be doing more stuff for others, but it's going to be slower and it's going to be a little less. I will never give up on the quality, but it's going to be a little bit before I kind of get back into that. Like, let's post everything. Let's publish and make everything public that I work on.
Right. And yeah, I see both sides. I understand if you want something or your group of friends want something, I understand making it public. You put a lot of time and a lot of effort, maybe even some money into it. And you know what? If you want it to be private, that is your right. Like, you can do that. No problem.
Yeah. If it's something that I would definitely say people that have just made something, I'm not really calling it dumb, but if someone takes a truck that was already a public mod and they did like 3 things to it that it wasn't like downright, oh my goodness, this is amazing, but it was also that probably could have just been public again. Like, just say you throw a toolbox and a grill guard on the front end of the truck,
right.
Like just on the truck. You can argue whether or not you want to. If you want to keep that private, it's probably pretty cool. But somebody who, like you kind of were saying, buys the model of, say, a brand new Chevy 3500 dually. If they buy the model, they do all the scripting, they do all that stuff and put however many hours into it, and then just to say, no, I'm not putting this out, again, that's their choice. If they did all that stuff together or with a couple of people that they want to share it with, by all means, that's perfectly fine. But the people that will sit there and just go, why don't you ever do anything public? There's one guy, again, not naming names, everything that he does is private. And I like how he does it. All of his stuff is very stock. It's like mine, but he does all this older stuff.
Yeah.
And I've chatted with him a couple times. There's one time I asked him for a truck, but we already got the truck in the game from someone else who did it. And I even asked if it was okay. I've gotten parts off of his mods though, because we chatted, we do business with the actual modding. Maybe I can't get the whole vehicle, but maybe I like the bed or the rims on the vehicle, and I'll ask him about it. And then we can barter something, maybe another part, or I may spare some change.
Right.
You just kind of gotta adapt to the whole situation. That if you really want to mod or you really want to get into it, you kind of gotta build some relationships with people. Otherwise, you can't really get very far.
Yeah, relationships are. I recorded my first episode of the podcast the same day we're recording this one, and in that one, just to give you some idea, Buck, I talked about just kind of the story behind my channel and everything of how the roleplay series got started and all of that, right? And one of the things that I've always been passionate about is humility. And if you ask me, when it comes down to everything anyone ever does, and including modding, right? If you post, I usually don't like it when people post a picture of their mod and they want it to be private, because I usually see that as, well, you're trying to just, feed your ego a bit, but that's not every case. Sometimes, and a lot of the times, it's not the case. But what bothers me is when someone will make a mod and then post it, like the pictures of it, just to fuel their ego. You know what I mean? Like, you can always tell the difference between someone who genuinely wants just to see people's opinion and be like, hey, like, I was working on this, I'm pretty proud of it. What do you think?
And
right?
that brings up a very, very good point, because that's the same guy I'm kind of talking about. That's the exact same thing that he does.
Right.
A lot of his vehicles, like 6 or 7 of the vehicles he's done, are vehicles that he actually personally owns. Like, he did something. I don't know if he ever modeled stuff for any of this, but even if he didn't, a lot of the things are like vehicles, again, he has in his backyard, kind of like my trailer or my mower.
Right.
It's just something that he wants to keep private because, again, it's kind of a personal other thing. But a lot of his other projects that he kind of just does, he just likes to go, what do you guys think? That's what that's his intent. It's not to look at what I got that you can't have.
Yeah, and if you're humble about it and you're genuinely just looking for feedback, or you want to see what people think, I have no problem with it. It's just all about whether or not you're humble about it. Are you just trying to feed your ego, or are you staying humble? And it's a fine line to try and determine which one is which, but that's usually my line on private mods. That's where I stand, is as long as it's not you just trying to feed your ego, please, by all means, keep it private if that's what you want. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. And that's also a big reason why I let my truck go public, because the truck was already a public mod. And the amount of times that I posted pictures about it, it's almost like the one guy in the comment section that went, quit
quit the cold showers. When's this thing going to be out? Just that, because I posted like 4 times that day of just how many different updates. Like it's going to be released tomorrow, which was my intent, but we were just kind of all laughing about it. And that's just, again, that's I'm like, I'm going to put this truck out because it's already put in public. It's just my edit of it. Now, it may have been a complete overhaul of what the original vehicle was, but still, if it was already a public mod, I put my edit. Why shouldn't that one be public? I didn't do the whole thing myself. That mod pretty much didn't cost me anything because I used parts from other vehicles.
Right. What do you think about content creators, YouTubers, or whatnot, using private mods that are sent to them by modders in their series? Because I know a lot of the times viewers will watch these and they want to be a part of it. Like they see these mods and they get excited for them. They want them. They like them. And then they hear that, oh, well, you can't have it because it's private. What do you think about that? Like, is that kind of backhanded from a YouTuber to like be like, look at this awesome thing that you can't have? Or is that okay? Like, is it okay for content creators to have mods that no one will be able to get? What do you think?
That one kind of goes back to it just depends on your tolerance level. If you sit there and you mope about how you can't have any of this stuff, and you want to have, I mean, give or take, having a content creator, especially someone like Grant at the beginning of 19, where people are just handing them mods left and right, that technically, I hate to say it, half of our group now has because he's added them in. You really can't get mad at the person who's doing the video because the person wants to showcase just something that they've done. It's almost just a different way. It's someone who's showing something off, and well, actually, that's a terrible way to describe that. I don't really find that to be anything bad. Yeah, sure, it might be a bad thing just for that. But one thing is that and it just keeps bringing me back to watch more of it. I may not be able to have it, but if I can watch what it can do, like Square 2448, he has that Kubota track. I keep watching that thing every day because even though I may not be able to have that tractor, it has the hood that I want for my Kubota. So it's the correct model. But again, I can't ever have it unless I buy the model myself, which is actually not very expensive. I found it. But it's still, it's actually, I think it's a $75 model, but it's a weird off-brand looking thing. It looks like the Kubota, just the colors are different. Okay, but yeah, it's literally all I need is the hood. And every time I see that thing pop up in a video, it's cool. I just want to go check it out, just see what it's doing.
Right. I think it comes down to a couple things. One, I think it's all about, again, humility or ego. Like, is that content creator just being like, look what I can get because of who I am, versus are they using it genuinely to just make content on, right? Because, and that's a big difference, is a lot of times content creators, they're there not because of the mod specifically, unless it's like a mod showcase I would suppose, right? But they're there to make content. They're there to make a video, something entertaining, right? And I think them using private mods as a tool for that is fine. I don't see any problem with it personally.
Because I always like to see those. I mean, a lot of the times I'll look in the description to see if anybody does that, but I've gotten to the point now where I just go, you know what? It's just a thing. If I really want to do it, I'll learn myself and I'll make it my own. So that's another thing, is it'll also help you if you really want to do this stuff, that just watching that stuff, it'll pump you into the more of I want to learn how to do this so I can have it myself. And if I really want to, I can share it with others. So it's just the bottom line of, you want to use it for, I don't even really know. But
right. Shifting gears.
It's a very confusing,
it is.
It's a confusing topic.
It is.
No one ever has the right answer.
Because it's not just binary. It's not just left or right, gray or black or white or or whatever, right? There are two sides to every coin, but sometimes the coin lands in the middle. You know,
Farming sim. I don't know what it is with Grant, but a lot of the stuff he says now, I almost just kind of follow up. When he called the game Freedom Simulator about 3 or 4 months ago, he's not lying. When the game came out in 2000, when the game actually came out in like 2008 or 2009, it was
right.
It was just literally, it was farming simulator.
Yeah,
farming. You got in a combine, you harvested, you dumped out your grain. That's it.
Yep.
Nowadays, you're getting into the point where you can run a tow truck company with a bunch of wreckers. Or you can go like we're doing, build a racetrack, go racing. You can almost, if there was a map that had all this stuff together, if somebody knows how to write a script to make it happen, this game could be anything you want it to be.
Well, this game could literally be a life simulator. You could do anything, run any business, be anybody. You know what I mean?
Yes. Besides the and the one game that you got the early access to, what was the name of that one? New Life or something?
Oh man, hold on. It was
either way.
It was New Life. Yes, New Life.
New Life. Okay. Farm Sim now has become one of the more underrated roleplay games, if you're thinking about it, because the pretty much right now the king of RP would probably be Grand Theft Auto 5 5M edition. You got so many scripts, you got so many vehicles, you got so many options. The biggest downside of it, though, is that you can't do some of the stuff that you can do in Farm Sim, which is obviously correct because the way Farm Sim is made, it's where you can just do cultivate fields, you can do all this landscaping. Grand Theft Auto is just based off of Grand Theft Auto. You just got all these police scripts. If you can mesh the two together, it'd be the greatest game to ever exist.
I agree. I think if Farming Sim was a AAA studio like Rockstar, with Giants being a AAA studio like Rockstar, and they have the team and the budget and the time that these Grand Theft Auto 5 or Grand Theft Auto games receive, I think it would be the top game. I think it really would. Having the ability to, having the graphics level of Grand Theft Auto, having the intricacies of GTA. Maybe not to say like the graphics level of 5 because that came out in 2013. Now it's got quite a bit of age on it.
Not even that. Just I wonder how they're going to handle the biggest feature that I'm hoping that Grand Theft Auto 6 incorporates is the quality that they put into, say, interiors of vehicles. If you really think about it, even the high-end quality, like real brand mods we have in our 5M server, when you go into their interior, they just don't have that same feel. Like you can do a whole lot with Farm Sim when it comes to that interior.
Right.
Like half the vehicles you can get working clocks, speedometers. Like the speedometers work in Grand Theft Auto, but they've always been known to not have that just realistic stuff to it. Because again, they're focusing on the gameplay of heists, missions, driving around 900 miles an hour. They're not sitting here going, we're going to make this combine so you can go first person and just look inside this beautiful interior. That's not their goal, which is what Farm Sim's kind of all about, which they got the gameplay down, but they also want the quality of their vehicles. The actual quality of the vehicle, I'd say Farm Sim takes top on that, depending on who makes the mod. I would
agree. I would agree. The quality, and that just goes for FS19 in general. The step up in quality from mods is astronomical.
I can definitely agree with that. The biggest help to that is, I would say, the lights. Lights are the hands down biggest feature to that, besides like the wear and tear and all that. The wear and tear is a nice feature, but we had dirt back in 17. The only real difference was they added the wearing side of it. The different materials, that definitely did help. I would definitely say that the biggest help, though, was the lighting. From just having this you could have a really nice quality model of a pickup, but then the actual way the lighting system worked, it's kind of ruined it.
Right. Yeah, FS19, the mods, it makes me so excited to see what 21 will have to offer when the modders get a hold of it. We don't know anything about 21 ourselves. We only know as much as you know, the public. We have no back end information, anything like that. But with just looking at the step up in quality from even 17 to 19, I am so excited. I am so curious to see what we will have in 21. I think it's going to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm. And one big thing I want to know, how many more brands are going to throw their hat in the ring now because Deer finally pulled the trigger? Everybody always wanted to know when Deer was going to make their final appearance, and Giants always kept telling us, no, 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 no. And then 5 weeks before, like, I followed that game's release date.
Yep.
In school, like when we'd be in the middle of coding class, and we're not really even supposed to be on other sites, but I always had that bookmarked, and like at the end of class, I'd always check it to see what's, because they always said they'd be adding stuff, and I checked one day, and I saw a Deer combine, and I about flipped. So I'm wondering if things like more Unver stuff, Brent, possibly even just dealers like Ford, Dodge, and Chevy.
Right.
Are they going to finally throw their hat in the ring so we don't have Lizard anymore?
Right, and that would be
like
huge.
Lizard, don't get me wrong, that's Peterbilt, Kenworth, Mack, you name it.
Yes.
If they got all of those different brands, it'd make it, I don't know.
I am curious to see what new brands will come into 21. Now that the largest agricultural company has hopped on board, and now we have, the Farming Simulator League, and there's so much attention being put on in farming sim now from these agriculture or manufacturing companies. I'm so curious to see who we will have in 21.
And depending on who we're even talking to, Deer throwing the hat in the ring definitely showed a key factor into helping out with that. But one big thing is that if you can even get your content to be popular enough to get a company to contact you about something, you know that this, if a brand company,
right?
Because they sell Deere, they're a dealer of John Deere. If you could have managed to get a hold of an actual United States company by playing a game that 3/4 of probably a state probably either doesn't care about or doesn't even know about,
right?
Depending on who you're talking to. Someone upstate New York is probably not even going to care about a farming simulator game, but someone in the Midwest probably would know what you're talking about. But still, to get a company to contact someone by email to go, hey, we see that you guys are getting popular with this. What's up with that?
Yeah, no joke. I mean, we're not even talking as the game studio, as creators of content on the game. If we, or I should say squad specifically, can capture the interest and somehow get known to buy a multi-million-dollar company, what has to be, even hundreds of millions probably. I don't know what their revenue stream is, but it's got to be a lot. They're selling John Deere equipment. If you can get that kind of recognition without even pushing for it, without even trying, it's how many of these other brands are looking at farming sim and thinking, wow, this is a great advertising market to get our brand into.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you're not going to, depending on who you're talking to, because that was, it kind of goes into EA Sports and the way that NCAA went down, the way you could have these big Nebraska school, you could have like a Nebraska, Iowa, whatever it is, kind of college that you're playing your team with, but you can never have the actual names of the players because they never paid them. That's kind of how I could see why they would never do something like Torgeson's. I don't remember what they call the one up by Welker Farms, but the case dealer out there, you can probably see that they're not going to throw that name on the side of a building without anything. The company's based out in Europe, I think. Isn't Giants out there somewhere?
Yes, Giants is I believe to be German company. They are definitely European. I believe they are German, but I could be incorrect on that.
Mm-hmm. And I almost think they need to branch. Not really need. They kind of have to if they want 2021 to be better than what it already is. Their European style maps that have always been put out, They are usually very high quality, always got a lot to do. But whenever someone tries to create an American map, unless you're from the Midwest, a lot of them are just a bunch of either big square fields or they'll make an attempt at something where it looks like Eastern California planting that. It just, you gotta have the right people to build the certain things. You want the best quality of something, you gotta have the person that has either been around it or encased and knows how to do it.
And you know what? We've branched onto this topic now. Let's take it full force. FS21. We don't know if it's even coming. We don't know a release date, although we can assume it is coming. And we can assume a release date sometime in November or October. But what do you want? What are the top features and improvements in 21 that you would like to see?
I would definitely like to see more brands, obviously. I would like to see a better place, like a better map layout, to be more of a, not necessarily multiplayer ready, but more of an interactive. Like you can kind of like Farmer's Dynasty almost.
Yes.
So if you're playing single player, it's not just driving around. Like if content creators have kind of a struggle with just basic farming. In farming sim, because that's literally all you can do. But in like Farmer's Dynasty, you have to go across the map to go talk to some Jeffrey guy to get contacts about some fruit sale that you can possibly get a planner trade, which is where your favorite comes into play.
Making the world feel alive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Making it feel lived in.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
The pedestrians just kind of walking around. Yeah, sure, it's cool to just drive through town to see someone walking down the road. I mean, it makes it feel a little bit more, but the interaction level that, well, even Grand Theft Auto, like they have cutscenes that they'll blow you away. Because again, a multi-billion-dollar company who takes 5 years to make a game because they can. It's good. You can get the quality. It's just, I don't know if Giants knows that they can unlock that true potential just by putting, almost kind of how we did, putting everything we had down on the line to see what will happen, and it turned out to be a huge profit.
Right. That would definitely be something that I would love to see, is a just more. I know it's farming sim, but give us a little more, because there's more to farming than, oh, it's time to put my cultivator in the ground. Oh, it's time to take that corn out of the ground. There's more to it than that. You know what I mean?
We're not necessarily asking that we need to go set the exact teeth height and like the actual everything else on like the back of the cultivator, make sure every single like tine is in working order. We're not. I mean, it's farming sim. We're not sitting here waiting for everything else like that.
Right. Although it'd be cool, it's not like it's necessary. Yeah. But just making
like
it
even that, or just make it some like download. You could do almost like seasons where you can play the game like it's always been made, or you can make it something completely different that almost makes it almost a little more lifelike.
Right. You could have, well, you know how like they have the farm manager, and then start from scratch, and then the other one, whichever it may be, I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Having those farm manager, start from scratch or whatever, that concept is great, and they're working towards it, which is awesome, and I'm excited about that. But having it more, you can go on the easy end, the easy mode, where it's more basic, but then having more advanced things on the other mode, you know what I mean? That way you get all your different player types happy. Those that want an arcade style, kind of just, I just want to drive and farm, man. I don't want to think about all the logistics behind it. Or those that try to dive in more detailed.
And what was I going to say about that? Oh yes. So coming back to that, Farm Sim actually has kind of gotten the interaction thing. Now that I think of it, they have actually putting a foot down in there in a way that you have to go, that you can work to get your land cheaper, which is kind of cool.
Right, with the contracts,
Yeah. Yep. But that would also be kind of cool if, say, again, you did the map layout to be more like a multiplayer, where you had multiple farms with multiple lands that, say, you could visibly see who owned what land. Like
Right.
land is already owned on the map. It's not like you own this one chunk and the rest of the map is open game.
Right.
It'd be kind of cool. Again, auction systems, used equipment. Again, Giants doesn't really want to put out rust bucket equipment. Don't get me wrong.
And
But
that's a branding thing. No brand wants broken piece of their equipment in the game, which I understand from their standpoint. But from just a game standpoint, you have to have a used market somehow. I mean, most farmers buy their equipment used. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And what would be kind of cool is that they could technically incorporate used equipment somehow. With the way the game has already some physics working, this is where the game developers could use some sort of modding aspect in it on their own. Say you wanted to go and buy an old International 88, kind of the same one that you used to run Little Tyke back in FS17, or was that
Right.
88? They have the tire deformation that now that when you put more load on there, the tires will actually sink.
Yeah. And they have the paint chipping, and they have the if it needs repaired, it's not as efficient. Like, they have aspects of it for sure.
Let's say they take some of those features, like the wearing, say they make it more of a, besides just being like a paint chip, they'll add like a rust texture as well to that. So you can get the look of it, as well as, like, say even the tire deformation. The tire deformation, the longer you let your equipment sit, or just technically, like, say the longer you let it sit, the tires will go flat. So you could sit there and go, we found an old tractor, back left tire's flat, as well as it's completely rusted. You take it to the dealer, and then you fix it up. You can restore it. You can do something like that. It would open up a whole level of just creativity that you could make this game be. Now, I'm also not the guy over here writing the scripts to make this happen.
Right.
So I'm not going to say anything because I don't know how to do it. It's almost like asking how to do something on a mod that you don't even know. It's a whole new threshold.
And with it, you might say, like, well, for branding reasons, these companies don't want their equipment broken in game. And that makes sense. I fully agree. But there's already a form of it. You get hours. There's an hour counter, right? You have to repair your vehicle every so often, right? So, and you have that, the visible damage with paint chipping, things like that. So why not? You already have that system. Why not implement a randomly generated, like, you go in the menu and it just randomly generates values in those categories. It says,
"Hey,
man,
actually already does that." Just coming to think of that, say what you're going to say, but I have an idea.
Well, you know what? And it does do it already. But what I'm saying is it'll say, like, hey, man, this tractor has 130 hours, and this is what the paint looks like on it, or whatever, right? And this is its damage right now. Like, you need to repair it up to this point. But the interesting thing is it already does that with the contracts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's not already in the game. You can make it happen. You just need a menu. When you go into the store, to go new or used, and then it would have whatever damage, whatever hours, whatever paint chipping, and
which is where my next point comes into play. That they could actually take some skill, like take some ideas from Car Mechanic Simulator. If you really think about it, I don't know if you've ever played it there before, but when it comes to the 2018 version, there's 3 ways you can get cars. 1, you can go to the dealer, which is, again, you could just walk around in the showroom and go buy something that's new, whether that be a mod that you put in that's like an old, like, 48 Chevy or something, or it be something completely brand new that looks like an F-150. Just depends on what you go in there. It'll cycle through like an actual dealer would. That's another thing I would like. You don't have like a menu that you walk in. You can walk into a dealer and you walk up to, say, some piece of equipment and you can kind of go buy it. That would be controversial because you could have 900,000 mods in there and you can't get it. But do something like you have to walk into the dealer and the menu is in the dealer, like you toggle through them in front of you. That'd be kind of cool.
And you know what? And everything we're saying is partially already implemented. That's the cool thing. 19 was a huge step with that. So this is, all this is possible because it's already partially complete. Another thing another thing I would love to see is, so, and this is new to 19, different farms can buy different land and equipment and all of that in multiplayer. That's new, and I love it. It is the reason the Roleplay series exists, essentially. I mean, not necessarily, but it helps our series out a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
what are you saying?
What I would love to see is the ability to auction the land you own, the ability to sell and or trade ownership of equipment and tools and implements. I think that would be a huge addition, to be able to say, like, hey, I sold this land. And not, you don't even have to have it to where the system, like, you have to put in an amount that they buy it for. It could literally, because there's a money trade system already. So it could literally just be a menu feature where you can say, field 1 now belongs to blank farm, right? This combine now belongs to blank farm. And then they just go into the money menu system, the trading deal, transfer money, and they transfer you whatever the agreed price was. I think that would be a huge addition.
One big feature that I think would be a game changer to, well, it was a game changer, but something that would make it even better is, say, the ability to, the decoration level of your farm. Because they allow you to build all this stuff to make your game look a lot more realistic to your taste. But they need to implement some features that can really spice things up. Like having placeable trees, placeable bushes, so where we don't have to, like, pretty much go get the mod for them.
Right.
But just different kinds, and they're already ready to go, or just that landscape. The landscape of the game it's really hard to do that, because if we were sitting here talking about the European style maps and we were from Europe, we'd be going, these are the best maps known to mankind, just because they kind of around there. All of them are usually hilly. They're kind of like they fit the profile that they were intended to do.
Yes.
But one map that really stands out, that was beautiful in 17 because of the way it worked. It may not have been the most, like, interactive map, but how you had to deal with really took hold of how the game can really act. Oak Creek, the last series that Grant did before he swapped to 19, I believe.
And that was
whenever you bought your field. That was in 17.
Right. What was the name of the map? Was what?
No Creek. That was the map. No Creek, I think. Okay. But either way, the way the map worked was you could buy all the land you could buy all the fields you want. You could buy, I think there was like 40 some fields on that map. And the land that you bought was a field, but when you went to the field, everything was grass. You had to manually till up your fields to start your farm. So say you wanted to go buy 40 acres of land, and some of it's tilled up, some of it's not. Say you want to make that entire 40-acre field all grass. Like the way of now you're able to make the fields like boundary lines. The boundary lines of not being able to just buy a certain field, you can buy an entire area. That's a big.
And you could actually have to clear trees. You could have to try and clear out that brush and all kinds of stuff. And that would be cool. I mean, with American style maps, or really any, I should say, I would love to see more realistic landscaping. And I understand it's super difficult. I understand that, but even when it comes down to terraces and waterways and grass strips and all the different soil conservation methods, I would love to see those implemented a little bit more or a little better. And yes, we have the ability to now, with the landscaping tool, do that ourselves if we wanted to. And that landscaping tool is one of the most useful features, I would say, in 19 for sure.
Yes. One big thing that I definitely wouldn't say it was the best map in 17, but it definitely got a run for its money for one of the top ones. And that was Upper Mississippi River Valley.
My personal favorite map, yes.
Yes. Strictly for how it was made. It wasn't blocky, it wasn't flat.
Right.
It had some flat areas. It just felt like a Midwest map.
It felt like home. You know, it was based off of northeast Iowa, McGregor, which is right up there next to Wisconsin. And I'm not from there, but it felt real.
Like
it felt like it genuinely was built with that landscape in mind.
And that's where my map comes into play, because I personally loved Upper Mississippi just because, again, of the layout, how it worked, and everything else. But I loved Lincoln Creek more. Now, yes, it was a little more of a blocky map. Like the fields were a little more square and a little more flat, but it was kind of the same thing because the map was based off of like York County, Nebraska. It had that part flat, part hilly. In a lot of fields that you could take it and you could turn them into some rounded. Some were already rounded fields that had lakes cutting through them. Again, just kind of felt that home sense to it. See, it's hard to make some kind of map for somebody, because if someone in, say, Southern California wanted to play this game, shoot, dude, the in-game map this year was almost identical to what they have.
Right. Yep.
So it is a lot.
It's a very biased thing, you know. It's a lot of personal bias that goes into some of this stuff. I personally think with 19, I understand, you know, why they went with Ravenport and based it off of Northern California. There is a lot of agriculture there. There is. But the main agriculture belt in America is the Midwest.
And
so
yes,
why wouldn't you make your map on the Midwest? That is like where not all, but that's like where the majority of farming takes place.
And that's where all these big, I mean, yeah, sure, you can go out into pretty much any state if you really, really wanted to go see someone go harvest something.
Yeah.
It just, you're not gonna see a whole lot of combines and sprayers in downtown Manhattan anytime soon, unless they're coming out of unless they're being shipped somewhere on a truck. You're not going to see it. Or same kind of goes for California. It's just that California's a little more open, more agricultural, like based-ish, because again, that people had to travel all the way across America just to get there. You know, San Francisco, same thing. You probably wouldn't see anything there, but when you get up into the northern part of the states, where it's just, you can see that stuff. But I mean, like the headquarters of Deere's, Waterloo, Iowa.
Right.
Pella, Iowa, Vermeer, all of those brands, they're just smack dab in the middle. And even when they get these American brands in there, the only time that Giants ever technically put American style equipment in off the bat was the Titanium Edition in FS13.
Yeah.
Because they put in the Farmall, a Farmall, like an old-fashioned Farmall. And it was beautiful. Everyone loved it. It was a stock, everybody could have it. Well, obviously, you have to pay $30 for the expansion, but
well, you know, and I also understand from Giants, you know, they're based in Europe, and their strongest market, I believe, is Europe and like kind of Germany specifically, because they love simulators. Like, I don't know why, but Germans love simulators. I don't know what it is. They just do, right? So I understand from their standpoint, like, you know, they're European. A lot of their target market is European, so they do a lot of European equipment and maps very well. But you have a very large and very passionate community in America that I feel like just doesn't quite get the focus that it should.
And that's where, because isn't the same company that makes American Truck Simulator, it's the same company that makes Euro Truck, and it's like SCS,
yeah, SCS.
And they're starting to hook on, because a lot of the way they expand theirs is through DLCs.
Right.
But when they started with California, it was about as boring as every American map that game had, that Farm Sim has to offer back in the early days. But you get to Oregon, you get to Washington, you get to Idaho.
Right.
They start New Mexico. they're starting to hook on with how America looks.
Oh, and they're doing a great job. Every time they release a new state, it's my new favorite state in that game. And they're doing a great job. I have the most recent one they released was Utah, and I have not been. I've bought it. I have not had the opportunity to drive into Utah yet, but I'm guarantee it's got to be gorgeous and it's got to be very true to Utah's territory. My personal favorite so far, I think, has got to be Oregon. That's probably my personal favorite.
Just from watching the videos about it, I still haven't gotten DLC. The last time I bought something for that was when New Mexico came out.
Yeah.
But that's even a while ago. Now they're like 4 states in.
Yeah. I mean, Oregon is my favorite one on ATS so far, to the point where when I started my new series, I put the base in Portland, Oregon, because I love that Pacific Northwest, that they did such a good job on it, you know?
Oh, yes.
And there is something where that would be interesting. So imagine, you have American Truck Simulator. It's all about driving semi-trucks. They do that well. They don't do anything else. You can't get out of the truck or anything like that. Yep. But imagine if Farming Sim realized how much trucking is done in farming, how much hauling is done in farming, and kind of just focused on it a little bit more, just a little.
Those German trailers, yes, they do look nice, but I just kind of want a lowboy, an American style lowboy with the American style of transport, because even just different ways to transport vehicles themselves is. Driving a combine back at 19 miles an hour or just resetting at the store every time kind of gets a little old. I mean, that's something that you'll probably just have to get over, but more like you were saying, how you can do the trucking, even if that could be some sort of mission to earn money. Just, can you truck this over to there? Simple as that stuff.
Right. I just think, and part of that, which I think would be cool and probably difficult on a lot of PCs, which is probably why, and difficult on their team, which is probably why they don't really do it. But I would love to see the maps to just be bigger by stock, just the stock maps bigger. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they're technically what? They're 1x right now, or 2x, or something like that.
I think they're technically a mile by a mile.
They're a mile by a mile, and
no, it's one. I think it's like 2 miles by 2 miles.
So that'd be 2x, right?
Yeah, somewhat. No. I think if it's 2x, then it's 1x is like 2 miles, I think. So
got you.
Because 2x map is like 4 miles by 4 miles.
Okay, so we have modded maps, which right now we're on a 4x map, right? And even then, the 4x maps, they start to feel kind of small sometimes when you're just driving, when you're trucking, or when you're going across a map. When you're in a field, unlike Nebraska, those fields are big and you know it, but they don't feel big enough. The Midwest, where a lot of the farming takes place, it is very large. The fields are big. It's just a large area. You're far from anybody and everything. So bigger maps, or the ability to easily run bigger maps, I think would be a huge plus and a huge addition. You know what I mean? Maybe the stock map is 4x4, like we're running now, and we can go up to, when we're doing modded maps, we could go to 16. You know what I mean? I know there's a 64x map that has been being worked on, which is massive, and it's crazy. I'm not saying we need to get to that level yet, but I do think a larger map stock would be a huge help.
Indeed. Another cool thing that could be incorporated is in Farmer's Dynasty, you have to have they have like a hunger level and all that stuff.
I'm not for sure, but I know what you're talking about. And that would be cool, where you have to drink and eat, and look at it sort of like My Summer Car, if you know that game. Where you actually have to eat and drink, and you have to buy it from the store, and you have to go to the restroom or whatever, right? And you have to shower. It just makes it more real. Makes it seem real.
Because I'm staring at the picture, the house I was doing. And that would be because you can get, it doesn't even have to be, you don't even have to pay for some of this, like these models. I mean, you can spend $400 on a house model, but just they kind of did that where you can go inside of the main house that you can stay in. Lone Oak's house is probably the best example.
Right.
Just to be able to, and say even be able to interact with that stuff. Like you walk up in the Grand Theft Auto, you can walk up, get a drink of wine. You just make it so it just looks like you can get a drink of water or something, get a drink of coffee in the morning. So just a few more little things that you can add.
And you might, your average player might think, why? Like, why would you do that? But it just makes it more real. And you might think, well, I don't want to have to do that. I guess you could probably turn it on or off, I would say. Would be cool.
That or your difficulty level. Your basic.
With your difficulty level,
and then your max farmer, max level, everything completely. You put on max difficulty, that's the stuff you can do.
Right. And
that would probably be difficult to code in, but
even outside of the fact that now you have to drink and eat and whatnot, it makes the time scale, the timing, more real. And they sort of implemented that now with the whole sleeping deal, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like you have to sleep. So your timing kind of gets all messed up. Like you're going and you're just going through lunch, and then you're going through dinner, and then it's nighttime, and then suddenly it's the next day and you're still going at it. Well, that, it just doesn't feel as real. Whereas you're going and you're like, oh man, I actually need to stop and go to lunch and get something to eat or I'm going to die. You know what I mean? And it just kind of lets you reset and make it feel more real. Whereas, it gets late and your guy's actually tired and you have a sleep counter, like a sleep bar. And you're like, man, I need my guy to rest now. I need to sleep through the night. It just makes the level of roleplay and gameplay more real across the board.
I've had my driver in ATS go like out cold before, but I can't remember. What does the driver do when he technically goes out cold?
So what happens in ATS? What will happen? You get your alerts that, hey man, you need to sleep, and then it'll start to warn you and stuff, and then your eyes will start to close a little bit, so you'll start to lose your vision a little bit here and there, and eventually you'll doze off completely. And what'll happen is you just lose control of your vehicle. So it doesn't swerve, but it continues at the speed and at the direction of travel you're going. So if there's a turn in the road, you're going to hit that guardrail or you're going to go off the road because you're asleep. You won't know. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And that's just something like that even. That would be kind of cool because, again, you almost have to Frankenstein 6 games together to make some of this stuff work, which it's definitely going to be harder to wire 6 games instead of 6 mods, but that if you really want to see if what will happen, because I wonder if they're just waiting to pull that trigger, because same thing with Deer. Deer was sitting here going, nah, we don't need to do this. We'll be fine without this. And they can see how Case is getting all this attention now because that's the only brand that was in America that was in the game besides something like Unverfirth now. Unverfirth were in their seed tenor, and Deer's like, okay, we're throwing in the towel. We're going in. And look at what they did. It opened up how much great quality mods because they actually had a good model to work with and it wasn't bought. Or it was bought. The amount of quality Deer mods now that have came out just because someone edits the already in-game version.
Right.
You got...
And man. Stuff like that even helps console players too, because just look at it. Like, we got Wilson in as well with the Wilson grain trailers. Imagine, if you will, that Ford, Dodge, Chevy, whoever it may be, GMC, I don't care who, imagine that they see John Deere's in there and they're like, well, you know what? John Deere's like a Class A manufacturer, so are we, and they're in on this. Let's hop in. Let's get some licensing in that game. Well, congrats. Now, for one, we have high quality models to work off of with meeting that company's requirements and specifications. And now console players can finally get branded trucks. I think they would be super happy about that.
I mean, just to The joke of farming sim right now is the only thing that keeps this game alive is the modders, and it's kind of true.
I would say it is true. I would say this game, its shelf life is very, very low without modders. Modders make the game.
Yes.
I mean, in reality, they do.
It's definitely true, and it's so. I mean, you really want to feel bad for console players for the fact that we know, and I've actually had the struggle of it too, because when I used to play FS13 on my old laptop, I had to look pretty much straight down at the ground because I couldn't even look straight without the thing going to 3 frames per second.
Same. So did I. When I played on 11, I had to look down and use the mini map to drive. Yep.
And the next year for PlayStation 3, I bought FS15. And the biggest thing I thought about that was because I knew there were mods that could be pretty cool, but there wasn't really a whole lot of American mods yet in 13. Like you had quite a few that were still there, and some of them that you had to dig deep to find. I never even knew about the Facebook mods. I probably could have had so many other nice mods that I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
I could have converted from however many. But it was, you just gotta. And I had that struggle of I have to work with this amount of slots that I can have for vehicles. You can't even really cheat with that. You literally just have to depend off of what's put on this mod hub. And it sucks. And I know about it because, again, I had to deal with it.
Right.
And then when 17 came out, I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again. And I got it for a PC, which was my old one before I got this one. And now I run 19 on this new PC, and it's just you can't beat it.
No,
if you know how to do the if you know how to make the stuff, play the game, and have fun doing all of it. And there's really nothing better.
Mods definitely make the game, I would say, 250% better. Without them, I mean, honestly, without mods, I would lose interest in Farming Simulator very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Even when 19 came out and we were playing on our save games or whatever, or when we got the Deddy server, even there weren't the best mods released yet. And that first bit of not having good mods, it's rough. It's rough to want to play the game.
It is, because even though you'll have mods that that's where again the modders will help, because there'll be equipment from the game before that was modded in that'll be stock in the next version. Like I think it's I don't remember how to say it. I think it's a Fleegee or a Fleagle.
Yep.
Fleagle. The gray tipper trailer that's like a stock in-game trailer that I think is a bumper pull. That thing was a mod back in 17 someone made. And it won the contest or something, so they brought it over as an in-game vehicle the next year. They just would have had to get the licensing on that.
Right.
And I don't remember what the heck ever happened to that. I wonder why they never brought over the orange Fleagle trailer.
I don't know.
That wasn't a great trailer, but it was still nice. What else have we not covered yet? This is kind of a never-ending topic.
It is. Well, but there's so many things that you could want out of Farming Sim. And sure, a lot of them that we're talking about today probably are pushing the boundary and probably won't get. But I'm so excited to see what we will get. I'm hoping it's things along the line of what we're talking about, or moving towards what we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And as much as I hate to say that we're both technically wrong on it's pushing the game's boundaries, we also got to remember that apparently if even a decent grade PC can run a game that has 88 gigabytes worth of your entire computer's hard drive, as well as its graphics physics, like Grand Theft Auto, I think Giants has got a little bit of room they can go. I mean, they went from a 7 gigabyte game file size, from 17 to 20. Yeah. 15 gigabytes of more stuff, which
that's pretty big now for farming sim.
It is. And, games are only getting bigger and bigger, but they're getting so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's so much potential and so much room for Farming Sim 21 to just be amazing. I'm really curious. I really want to know what we're going to have in 21.
And speaking of potential, we're going to go off the Pinocchio commercial for Geico with Grant's modding potential. All I see is untapped potential. You have potential.
Yeah, and the nose extends. You have potential. Did you know that Pinocchio would make a terrible motivational speaker?
That's good. That's great.
Gotta love it.
It's such a great game that has, like we said, so much that could be going for it. Even if, say, all the houses, they usually, obviously, we don't want to dump too much time and effort into something. They don't want to make it so the game's like so bad, but like so badly, I'm trying to find a way to put this, like so badly loaded with stuff that you can't play it.
Right.
But even like 3D Warehouse SketchUp, I'm looking at working on a house right now to replace the one that people have been liking on Facebook. You can't even go in the house. Like, it doesn't have anything. You just have the garage that's, again, not even really that good. It's just it's a very nice house design, but the only thing you can interact with is the garage. And even if all the houses in the game had like a garage that you could park in, that would be very helpful.
Right.
But also the fact of you could get all these different kinds of house models that are free and put them around as like little towns, and you can go into these houses. If you want to make a role play where you live in a house, just go into a house, and there's different kinds. You can get as many different houses as you want.
Right. And imagine taking a book out of Farmers Dynasty's page, right? Or a page out of their book, I should say. Mm-hmm. Imagine, if you will, the buildings that you can buy in Farming Sim. So you place down a building, and let's say that there's a used market for those as well, right? Or maybe you have some already on your farm, depending on what save you go with or whatever. But imagine having the ability to just repair, upgrade, add on to these buildings or change them up a little bit. Maybe you have your farmhouse, and maybe you're like, man, I don't like that roof. It's got some holes in it. I want to fix that. Or I don't like the color of my house. I want to paint the siding. You could do that. Like those small things, I know would be hard for them to implement probably, but that would make it really interesting and provide content creators with so much more room to make content.
Which is where Farmers Dynasty has the upper hand. A lot of games have a lot of very strong points that they can go, I'm better at you in certain things and not the other. But like Farmers Dynasty, you're pretty much locked into a very small, it's not like a tiny world, but you pretty much, it's more of a actual life game, and then you just kind of run a small farm, like your small family farm, but you have to communicate to get the game to go. Grand Theft Auto is the same way. It's just it's such an open world that you have to accomplish all the different tasks around the place just in order to complete the game. Farming Sim, on the other hand, it's just you can drive wherever the heck you want. You have all the things that you can do. It's just that you can't really act them out. You just kind of stuck with, kind of like how we say it, you drive a tractor into a field, plant it, harvest it, mow the grass.
And when you want to get more detailed into these things, you have to suspend your disbelief, and you have to role play it, right? Which is fine. Like, we do that now, and it's fine. It works. But imagine, if you will, us not having to pretend that our tractor got stuck in the mud, right? What if it actually did get stuck in mud? You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
That would be huge. So there's another thing. Ground deformation would be very nice to have.
And one more big want for 2021. Passenger script. Stock in the game. Being able to carry passengers.
Yes. If there are more than one seat, more than one butt better be able to fit into it, right? That just makes sense. Like if you're driving a truck and it's got 4 seats, why wouldn't all 4 seats work, right?
Mm-hmm. And even because in FS17, when you ask me how hard would it be to make, because like some of our trucks, like some of the vehicles we had were passenger script ready,
Right.
but they weren't. Like some of them had passenger script, the others didn't. And when you ask me, do you know how to do anything? Because I was starting to look into how on to mod, and I saw it was all this scripting work. I went, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Since now that I've done this 2020, I could tell you that passenger script would take less than 30 seconds to install. It's just one simple line. You put in the numbers, and you put a person where the person would sit, and you're done.
So here's a question. Here's a question for you. Is your 2020 is your 2020 Ford going to have passenger script available in 19?
If the person who knows how to convert the Lula script that does the passenger one, like we have that passenger script, the passenger mod for vehicles. Someone said though that there's a way to put it into your own vehicles. If I can find out how to do it, I will do it to the truck. But for right now, I can't because I don't know how.
If anybody knows, maybe the person that made the universal passenger script, if you could help us out with that, on how to implement that into vehicles, that would be super cool, because then Buck will be able to put it into his 2020 Ford, and maybe we're going to get it into other things on the Roleplay series. There's so many times, I can't tell you how often we're like, all right, yeah, I'll ride with you to blank, and then we have to like cut, and someone drives all the way there, and then they hop out of the vehicle, and then we like tab to their vehicle, and then hop out and resume recording, like, all right, yeah, that was cool, we drove over here. It'd be so easy and so cool if we could just actually get in.
Kind of because, when you were taking the 8RT and the DB60 back to Flat Valley in Iowa, Grant rode along with you because that was the in-game tractor that could have passengers. It was really cool because you sat there and just chatted about stuff, and you actually looked over. He's sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And we were having fun. Or just like me running up to you guys with the 8RT or whatever it was when the planter combine got stuck.
Right.
And we're going, look, jump on. And I jumped on and I sat on the ladder.
Yeah. There's so many little opportunities for cool role play or just cool scenarios that can be done because of the ability to have a passenger, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I was just going to say something about that, man. Oh, what was it? Shoot, it just skipped my mind. I don't remember. I do not remember.
I don't know either.
All right. Well, this podcast has gone on long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It was a lot of fun sitting here and talking with Buck. Buck, thank you for coming on and joining me today. Hopefully we'll have you again if you enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it? Yes, I actually did. It was just kind of you don't really think of your recording, but you can just sit and chat. It's it's very relaxing. Just sit down, chat, have a conversation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our little conversation here today about mods and what we'd like to see in Farming Sim 21. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. Like the video, like the podcast if you will, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.